Take two. All right, it's 1.3 in your textbook. We're talking about integer operations with powers. First thing you guys are going to be aware of is BEDMAS. Talked about this yesterday. Brackets, exponents, division and multiplication, addition and subtraction. These two being interchangeable. Wherever they come up in the question, that's when you would deal with them. Okay? Next thing I want to point out is the difference between negative 2 to the exponent of 4 and negative 2 in brackets to the exponent of 4. Okay, there is a difference between these two. Negative 2, when you have no brackets, the negative sign is not in the brackets, this exponent only applies to the base. So we leave that negative sign on the outside, and now the base is only exponent of negative 4. So 2 times 2 times 2. So this becomes negative 16. Whereas in this particular case, the negative 2 is in brackets, so this exponent applies both to the negative sign and the 2, so they both need to stay in brackets. Okay, so we end up with two very different answers, negative 16 versus 16. All right, moving on. When we have a negative number in brackets to an exponent, when we have an odd number exponent, the answer is going to be negative. When we have an even number exponent, the answer is going to be positive. Okay, so it's a nice little trick to know. That works with any negative number that's raised to an exponent. If the exponent is odd, we're going to end up with a negative answer. If the exponent's even, we're going to end up with a positive answer. Any questions there? Quite a bit quicker. Yeah, we're going to move on. All right. So our first question looks like this. Again, using BEDMAS, the first thing we have to look for is brackets. The only thing I see in brackets that I can do anything with is this middle term here. So let's work with that. And leave everything else plus negative 1 minus 1. We have a negative number. We're taking away another negative number. So it becomes negative 2 to the exponent of 3 plus, I'm still leaving everything else the same for now. Now the next thing I'm going to address are the exponents. So there's exponents in each one of these terms. So I'm going to start with the first term on my left. Now we've looked at this. The negative is not included with the exponent because there's no brackets surrounding it. So I'm going to leave that negative sign alone and deal with the 2 to the exponent of 4 separately, which we know now is 16. Plus now my negative 2 is in brackets, so I know when it's an odd exponent on a negative number, I know my answer is going to be negative. And in this case, it's going to be 8 because we're raised to 3. So 2 times 2 times 2. Next, I have my 5. I can leave that on the outside because I'm going to deal with the exponent before I deal with the multiplication. Remember, when you have a number directly in front of brackets, you can't see it, but there's a little invisible multiplication sign there. Okay, that's what that means. You always have to assume that. It's multiplied. So negative 2 now is in brackets again. However, the difference now is that it's an even number exponent. So the answer is going to be positive. In this case, positive 16. Right? I wouldn't put that there, but just to highlight it. Now we have negative 16 plus minus 8. It's the same as minus 8. We're taking away 8. So negative 16 minus 8 would be negative 24. And then we have plus 5 times 16 is going to be positive 80. Yep.
Don't you have to do the multiplication first? Or really bad? In this case,
No, I don't think it'll make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference, but you're right. Because of BEDMAS, you would deal with this first.
yeah,
But
you can end up the same way.
yeah, I don't know how I can explain it. Like I know I'm not adding anything to the 5.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. I'm doing them kind of at the same time. But you're right. You do have to deal with that. You can't add anything to this term before you do that multiplication.
But you can do something separate. Like,
Yeah, you can do it at the same, and you can combine a lot of these steps at the same time too, right? As you're doing.
Yeah, it just makes it easy.
Yeah, as long as you're paying attention to the order, right? Like I wouldn't add negative 8 to 5,
Yeah.
right? I gotta make that multiplication first. That's the point, right? Okay, and finally, we're left with positive 56. Any questions? Okay, next one. So again, using bed mass, we're dealing with the brackets first, so I leave the first power. Who can tell me, again, just to recap from yesterday, what's the difference between a power and an exponent? Nobody? Come on, guys. Power and an exponent. Austin.
Power is both the base and the exponent is just the small number.
Exactly. Great. Excellent. So this would be a power, and this would be an exponent. Okay? So if I were to read this, I would say negative 3 to the exponent of 4, not to the power of 4. Okay? Alright, so we have negative 3 to the exponent of 4. We're going to deal with what's inside the brackets here. Inside the brackets now you have to use bed mass as well. So again, brackets within brackets I'm looking at. Now there's nothing I can do in this bracket, but I have to deal with that exponent. So again, we have a negative number with an odd number exponent. That means our final answer is going to be negative. So negative 2 minus, I'm leaving this on the outside of the brackets for now. Now I'm dealing with this negative 4. It's going to be negative 64. Okay, any questions there? So starting to get confusing with all these negative signs. Notice how I didn't bother dealing with this negative sign yet. I left it and dealt with the exponents. This exponent is odd, this is a negative number. I know my answer is going to be negative. Finally, plus root 16. We can get rid of this right away now too, right? Root 16 we know is just 4. Okay? Moving right along. Now I can deal with this exponent. Actually, see, this is a scenario where I know this addition comes later. I know I'm going to have to deal with this before I make this addition, so I can deal with this term now. Okay, even though there's stuff left in the brackets, if you want to combine some steps, let's deal with this now. Again, it's not in brackets, so that negative sign stays on the outside. So now I just have to worry about 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And this is going to be negative, what's that, 27 times 3? 81? Yeah, thank you. Plus, now we're dealing with negative 2 minus 64. When you're subtracting a negative number, you're in fact adding the opposite, so you're adding a positive number. So in this case, we're going to have a result of positive 62. Okay, and even for something like this, you can use your calculator. Okay, don't be shy if you're... Finally, negative 81 plus 62 plus 4. What's the final answer there? Negative 50? 15. Thank you. All right, let's go to the last example. Okay, this is example 3. So it might have, oh you did? Good. 3x. Now have you guys done this before with substitutions?
Yes.
You seen this before? Okay, you're going to see this a lot. They're giving us the two values of x and y. So if there was a chance for us to simplify things before subbing in, we would, just to make it easier. But in this case, there's only one x and there's only one y, so we can't simplify anything. So we're just going to go ahead and substitute those values in right away. That's going to be equal to 3, x is negative 4 cubed plus 16, and negative brackets. Whenever you substitute values in, very important, whenever you substitute them in, create a spot with brackets, okay? If I substituted this -4 in here, without putting those brackets, I'm gonna get confused with what do I do with the exponent. Does the exponent now apply to the negative sign and the base of 4? Yes, it does, because you always substitute into brackets. Okay, always create those brackets a spot to substitute into. Okay, and then you won't get confused with whether or not you're applying the exponent to just the 4 or the negative sign. It is applied to both. Someone help me out? 3 times -64? Matthew? -192. And that's plus 16, or that's with the 16? Plus 16. Okay, just finishing up here, and what's the final answer here? So the nice round number. It's 22, right? Any questions? Okay, I expect this homework to go pretty quickly. That's it. So the main things that we learned today, again, have this written down in your textbook, refer back to it if needed.